Have you ever met a group of people who were too American to be African or too African to be American? You probably met a second, third, or fourth generation immigrant. These are a bunch of people who are seldom considered, but they face a unique challenge. And why don't we find out what really happens with them? Welcome to the Summon, the African Summon, where we connect you to Africa and African culture. In today's edition, we're going to be talking about the African immigrant child. And I have a very dear friend of mine, Kekeli Foly, I have invited to share her experience with you. Please invite your friends, neighbors, and loved ones and join us for this wonderful edition. While you're at it, do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share. Welcome, Kekeli. So, tell us something about your people, where you are from, and about you. Go ahead.
I would say like my people, right? So I definitely identify as American, but also I'm definitely from Togo as well. So I was born American, which is why like that's I have that connection. So I always say like, yes, I'm American, but my blood I'm from Togo. So like my people, like, on one end, Black American, especially, when I speak to people from Africa, they're like, you're from Togo? You don't look like Togo. You like just a second ago, I was in the Uber and the lady was like, you're from Togo? How? And I'm like, I'm born here. She's like, oh, okay. I got that. So I'm definitely, a Black American, but I'm also like from Togo. My parents are from Togo. My family's from Togo. I, got citizenship also from Togo. So I'm really a Togolese American, African American for real.
I see that it would be nice for us to add this little piece to it because most parts of Africa, you are from where your parents are from. In America in particular, you're not from where your parents are from. You are from where you are born. So if you were born in Georgia, you may have parents who are from Florida, but you're from Georgia. So it's a little, where you're born is very critical. And it's nice for us to bring that out so that people can say in the lens, in the American lens, when you respond to that question of where you're from, the translation is that's where you were born. But in the African eye, when you say when I ask where you're from, it's really, we're talking about your heritage. We're talking, which is definitely having to do with your ancestry, having to do with where your father is from, where your people are from. So it's nice for us to make that distinction so that everybody is on the same page. And what are some of the challenges you encounter in being a second generation immigrant?
So definitely like, I feel like everybody kind of has this like identity, like challenge of just like identity, like who you are, what you're about, how you connect to this world. And being second generation, like I always feel like I was in between two worlds. So I never really knew like which place to stand. Like you open by saying like too American to be African, too African to be American. And oftentimes that's how I felt. Like I grew up, with just my family. Majority of, my extended family were all in Togo. So I never really felt like I had, I never felt like I was American in that sense because, people had family reunions, they would hang out with their cousins every weekend. Whereas I didn't really have that. So, you know, it was definitely a challenge just kind of understanding like who I was. And, you know, like I didn't grow up watching, you know, MTV and listening to rap. Like I grew up watching, you know, Kofi Olomide, and you know, I grew up, you know, listening to French music and, you know, music from Togo, from Congo, from Gabon. So, you know, I never really knew like, you know, what do I like better? Like I would be around my American friends and it's like, you don't know that? And it's like, I don't know. Like they would ask me to go to sleepovers and it's like, no, my parents said I can't go to sleepovers, down to like things we would use in the shower. Like we used to do the bucket thing, you know, versus like I used to go to people's house and we have a shower head and it's like we don't do that at my house, you know. So it was always like I never really knew, you know, to me it was a challenge when I was growing up versus like now I understand that like it was a blessing. Like I had two experiences that I was able to, you know, live through, but it was definitely difficult understanding, you know, as a kid, like
Tell me
what
what
was
it
what.
was like. How did you view your parents? Because if I understand correctly, your parents are first generation immigrants, both your dad and mom. Were they, how was it easy for them to integrate in the United States? What was your growing up relationship with them? From what I understand, some kids are struggling because their parents don't necessarily speak English. Um, you know, so what was that environment like for you, and the environment you experienced outside, like at school or in the community?
So I didn't notice it because, you know, they were my parents, but, you know, my parents both were born in Togo, moved to the United States. My dad got here first and then my mom. And even that, they still had different experiences. So my dad spoke French, spoke his native tongue, learned English only when he arrived to America, I believe. That's when like he worked more on his English, whereas like my mom, you know, she was the daughter of an ambassador, kind of grew up everywhere in the world, but really didn't know English at all until she got here and had to teach herself and learn. So, you know, like in the years before they had me, of course they had, you know, those obstacles. Language was a big thing. You know, acclimating into this new culture was definitely a big thing also. Um, and then here I come, and it's like, well, what language do we teach our child? Do we teach them English? But we don't know much English either, so how do we really teach our kids? And then, so it was more so like, I knew my parents sounded a little bit different than others, but it's only when we would go out that people would be like, "You have an accent. What are you saying?" But
They said that to you?
no, to my parents.
Okay,
Like,
gotcha.
well, yeah, there was, you know, I would hear things like, "You have an accent. Where are you from?" And I would be like, "My parents don't have an accent. I don't hear an accent." You know, like, yeah. But over time, I saw that my parents would do more to try and like better themselves. I didn't necessarily know it was because like they're trying to learn more English,
More
but
English.
my mom went to school to learn, you know, more English. My dad started doing like speaking, you know, um, like organizations that, you know, he could get better with his speech. And, you know, certain words they say a little different, and then me and my brother would be like, no, you say it like this, not like that. So it's like I could tell that they were trying, you know, whereas now I feel like they're very American.
When do you go back to Togo? How long do you stay there? And have you established a connection? Are you able to talk with the people easily when you get there? Do they speak with you in the native tongue, or do you speak in French or in English? Tell us a little bit about that experience, please.
Okay, so honestly have not gone to Togo many times. Literally like a handful of times. Like I can still count on one hand how many times I've gone. So I've gone when I was young, like I was 5, and then I went again when I was 15. And then there was a big, gap in time. I didn't go again until I was 28, and then again when I was 29. So, yeah, and then the longest that I've gone is, either between 2 weeks to a month. I think a month has been the longest I've spent in Togo, like at one time. And it was a little bit difficult. I mean, when I was younger, of course, I always would go with my family. So like when I was 5, I don't remember that time, but when I went when I was 15, we went for a month. It was me and my younger brother. He's about 4 years younger than me. The first 2 weeks, my dad was there, so we were speaking English. Anything that needed to be said to us. Like I spoke French at the time, so I was able to, communicate and understand French. But in terms of our dialect, I didn't really speak it. I understood it enough, but I didn't really speak it. And then 2 weeks into our trip, my dad left, so it was just me and my younger brother. So of course we had each other and our aunties, but it was a little bit more difficult to communicate because, we didn't speak the language. We spoke French enough, but, French was fine with people that, had formal education. But like helpers, people just, in the community that didn't have that French, um, because we didn't speak the dialect. My brother doesn't speak it at all. It was a little bit harder to communicate. I think one day I kind of had to like piece words together to have somebody come lock the door, and that was like, whoa, that was a lot for me. So yeah, now that I'm older, it was a little bit easier to communicate because I had my French, but it was still like I don't practice my French very often. I don't speak French very often. So even that, I had to like dust off my French a little bit more, and you know. So I mean, it wasn't too hard. I'm trying to make an effort to like learn the dialect and really start speaking it. But that's just something about us second generations. We don't always speak the language. We understand it, but don't always speak it.
Well, you still have the chance to learn, so don't give up. Don't give up on yourself that easily. If I may ask, would you? I mean, you mentioned that your dad took you there. At this point in time, do you have enough connection with Africa to go back on your own to make those trips by yourself? If not, what's the barrier? Is it lack of a relationship with people there? Is it a financial challenge? Is it because your parents aren't there? What kind of challenges, obstacles do you find in connecting with Africa?
So when I went, I actually went during COVID. So that was a very interesting time to go. The world was shut down here, but it wasn't necessarily, the same feeling in Africa. It was like, yeah, they were wearing masks because they had to, but no one really felt like COVID was really in Togo. So that was actually a time where I went by myself. And like I said, it was a big gap in time. So they commended me for wanting to go, first of all, and second of all, to go by myself because I didn't have my dad to translate. I didn't have, a real connection with anyone in Togo, really, because I don't go that often. But I had started talking enough to my dad's oldest sister that I felt like, I think I can do it, I guess. I mean, she's family still, so I don't think it would be that weird. And it actually was like an experience that I'm so, 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 so glad that I took, because I could have just been like, I'm not going by myself. And I was a little worried at first, but I would definitely go back to Togo by myself again. I think after I went again, like my family would say, like that experience that we had wasn't the best. So maybe if I would have gone by myself, it would have been a little bit better. But going by myself, like it really helped me to observe and to tap into the culture, really tap back into my family. And I spent a lot of time with my aunt to a point where it's like now we talk very often, you know, like she
Beautiful.
told me stories about my family that I didn't know, and she took me places that I've never been before, and you know, it was a really great experience, and I don't think anybody should be scared of it because when you're by yourself, you don't rely on other people to influence your experience. Like you make your experience for you. And that was really like it was a really nice experience. And I'm glad that like I had my aunt to be open and showing me things because like my aunt could have also been like, no, I don't have room for her. I don't have time for her. I don't, you know, but she really like took me and you know, reacclimated me back into like our heritage, our culture to a point where like I want to dive into it. Like
Oh,
I want to get more connected to it because like I realized and it answered a lot of questions for me in the sense of like who am I? What am I about? Why do I do this? Why do I do that? Like just going and seeing how things operate there was just like, oh my gosh, this is why I'm like this. This is why I'm like this. This is why I like this. Oh my god. So it was a very lovely experience. And I would definitely go back again by myself and you know that's just something that I want to start doing now. I just want to like start going more often and like making time to go more often.
and it probably helps you understand your parents even better because
Exactly.
their reality is Africa and they are trying to communicate that to you. If you've not had an insight into it, you will not get it. So now you get it. You get them a whole lot
I
more.
get it. Now I get it. I even get why they left and why they don't go back too often or why, you know, they, you know, have very low tolerance for certain things or why they work so hard or why, you know, like I get it. I get it. It makes sense now.
What would you say to first generation immigrants and to second generation immigrants or first, second, third, fourth gen immigrants about what they should be telling other people in your situation? I mean, first generation immigrants will be those who are leaving Africa and moving to whatever part of the world. And second or third will be the kids who don't have that experience of where they're from. Third will be those who are born to those kids and so on and so forth. What would you now, just hindsight, tell parents in those different categories? What should they be telling their children and how should they navigate the challenges of being in your position in going through the kind of experience you've had, you know? Please help us, just tell them.
I love this question. Okay. So I'll start with first generation. So first generation, those are, you know, the movers, the ones that have the vision that are like, okay, I need to change my situation because I want better for myself and you know for my kids, my kids' kids. So um I just I would tell them to continue to be proud of the fact that you were able to identify that you need to change your surroundings because it's easy for people to just kind of stay in the rut and think that they're helpless and don't do much about it. So first of all, I just want to congratulate those people and tell them like to not waver in who they are, where they come from, what they're about. In the sense of not wavering though, you have to also understand that like you're moving to a new place. You're moving to a new environment, which was why you wanted to move in the first place. So you have to find a way to integrate into the new culture and place that you're moving into, but also stay true to who you are and like what you're about. And I say this more so because like the Black American experience is different from the African experience, and it's very different from the African moving into a Black American space. And that's something that like also contributed to my identity thing.
Right.
Because the last few years we've dealt with like Black Lives Matter movement, Black history. Of course, we know about like the slavery and everything. But even though most of us in the West African area like grew up in what they call poverty, we're still very proud of who we are and we know who we are. So there's a sense of pride that comes with that because we know who we are. Versus like the Black American experience, a lot of Black Americans can't really say that they know who they are and know where they come from. So they almost see our pride as arrogance when it's not really arrogance. It's just like we take for granted the fact that we know where we come from.
We claim them though. We claim every single one of them. And if I can just use this moment to reach out to any one of them, just know that they're welcome.
But they don't always realize that because they've been pushed aside for so long. So instead of understanding like, wow, you guys are proud and we should like be proud too, they think it's like an arrogance thing. And I've heard this from people and I've tried to like make people understand like, no, come see, like you are so welcome. Like definitely
yes.
Like, anybody that I know, any friend that I know that's like, I want to, you know, because it's a fear of the unknown. It's a fear of the unknown mixed with like being oppressed for so long that you just become angry at everybody and anybody, and I get that. But we also have to let them know, like, yes, you are welcome. We're just proud of who we are because we know who we are. Like, no matter what we have family, we have, you know.
And you're part of us.
And you're part of us, exactly. So that's something that, like, I try to articulate to, like, my friends. Like, whenever you want to go to Africa, let me know. I'll let you know when I come. You can come. You know, my auntie has, like, you can come, go to Ghana, you know. So yeah, that's what I would say to, like, first generation. Just be proud of who.
What would you say to the African immigrant, the first generation, the second generation, the third generation, those who are raising kids, who are probably experiencing who are going through the experiences you've had? How should they better understand the challenges? Maybe I should say, tell us about some of the challenges you had and how what your parents did helped you, or may have been gaps which you would kind of tell parents, hey, look out for these signals that children are going through a tough time, and how things have come together in your adulthood.
So as first generation, like my parents, I'll speak on my experience. So my parents are first generation. They both moved here from all over, but definitely from Togo. And for me, for example, like my name is Kekeli. So that's the proper pronunciation of it, Kekeli. But growing up, like most people can't say Kekeli.
And you mean growing up in the United States, in the environment where you were?
Yes, growing up here in the United States. But my parents wanted to stay, you know, true to themselves and true to their traditions, that, you know, they made that decision that, you know, their first child, were going to give them a Togolese name. And You
How did you
know,
get the name? Tell us about the name.
so my name is actually it's my grandfather's name actually. He passed away a little bit before I was born. So this is my father's father. So my parents just decided that, you know, because of how great of a man he was, and you know everything that he's done for his family and for the world and the community, they decided that, you know, girl or boy, that they're gonna get the name. So um, I was blessed with the name.
Did you always
And growing
feel
up,
blessed to have that name?
I didn't always feel blessed to have this name. And my name means light. So I knew that growing up, and I knew the story of my name, and I knew that it meant light, but it didn't take away from the fact that people were always saying my name wrong, or always making fun of me for my name, or just, you know, it would just hurt me in my core. It would just, like, I used to ask my parents, like, why would you give me this name? Like, why couldn't you just give me like a simple name like Courtney or Ashley, or something that was easy for people to pronounce? Because, you know, I just always felt like different, like, but not in a good way. It was always different in the sense of, like, people couldn't say my name right, or they would always like Kiki or Keke or Kekeli. Like, anytime a substitute teacher would come and they have to read the names out loud, they're always saying my name wrong. People are always laughing because it's like they know that this is how it's gonna go. Like, I used to get to a point where, like, they would stop, like they would read all the names and be like, and I would say Kekeli, like, so that they wouldn't have to like go through that. It was almost like an embarrassed, like, I would just always be embarrassed, kind of, because one, I felt like people weren't making the effort. Like, I just didn't understand like why it was so difficult. And then in the same point, I feel like it was kind of like a disrespectful thing. Like, do you guys know what my name really means? Like, do you guys know like the story of my name? So it was definitely like hard to, you know, grasp that. Whereas now, like, I love my name. Sometimes I would say, like, just to make it easier for people, I would say like, my name is Kelly, or, you know, but I'm still learning that, like, I shouldn't have to like dumb it down for people, because my name is my name. Like, how is it that all these other people like can say these like weird names, but they don't take the time to say my name? So now I'm a lot more like confident in the sense that this is my name. I don't have a nickname. Just say my name correctly and we're good. Like, people say, do you go by anything else? And I'm like, no, Kekeli. And even then, right, like, Kekeli is the American pronunciation of it. So at least I'll take that. But, you know, it was definitely refreshing going to Togo and seeing my name on like buildings, or seeing my name, you know, when a Ghanaian person sees my name, they know exactly where I'm from. They know exactly who I like. They know what type of person you are based on your name, because names are very important in our culture. So, you know, getting older and tapping back into my heritage and culture, like, it's been great. Like, I've been able to accept it a lot more and be proud of it more. But it was definitely difficult. It was definitely difficult.
So how would you ask parents to help kids as they face these challenges? Because you're not the only one. Our kids are out there, they are having challenges. Where are you from? You're from Togo. Where? Togo, you know, they're having those things that are embarrassing to them, and they cannot understand why they're from this place, or their parents come to a school function in their African regalia, which should be revered, but the kids are like, oh, they think we're some poor people. Why did you wear that hideous outfit and come to our school, you know? And they don't want their parents around them. How can the parents help these kids?
Okay. A lot of parents might not want to hear this, but a lot of, I mean, it's just how our culture is. Like, the kids don't really have much say. It's more so just kind of what the parents say, and we don't really have a voice to express ourselves. So I know a lot of times, like, we'll internalize things and we won't necessarily communicate. So the first thing I would say is, like, definitely open a space for the child to be able to express themselves. So it doesn't turn into an anger. It doesn't turn into, like, let me just keep it all to myself, because I know a lot of us have that. But it's only because of, like, what we've all experienced. Like, second generation have experienced, first generation, like, we've all kind of experienced this, like, well, it is what the parents say. So definitely we have to, like, open up that dialogue first off. And then once you open up that dialogue, you're able to, like, share your experience on, what has happened. Like, just because a first generation parent didn't experience the same thing as the second generation, like, there could be some type of similarities that, like, if I open the dialogue to explain my experience, maybe it'll help you on your experience. So, yeah, it's just like, you just have to be able to let them know, like, what you went through and what your process is, so that the child can also be proud of who they are and what they're about. Like, I thank my parents for giving me my name, because now, like, I have that sense of identity. When I went back to Togo, like, I was able to, like, literally see, like, how my name connects me to a whole group of people. Whereas, like, if they would have given me, like, just a regular name,
Courtney.
like, it wouldn't have.
If they gave you Courtney.
Yeah, if they would have given me Courtney, like, it's not as, but a lot of us have that, thing, because, like, I tried to make sure that, like, my younger brothers have a simpler name, because I didn't want them to feel, what I felt. But I didn't really have that, like,
Understanding.
and, like, really have that sense of, like, I should be proud of this. Because, like, it wasn't really explained to me like that. It was just like, it just is what it is, and that just is what it is. And I'm the type of, like, I need the why. Like, especially as a kid, I was always like, why? And, like, you get frustrated with that kid over time, because you don't always have the answers. But if you can say, I don't know, and then explain your experience, like, but just say, like, this is why we do this, because we're proud of what we do. And, instead of just saying, like, this is just how we do things. I think definitely, like, being able to explain it to your kid and, like, understand that, like, your child is there for you to teach them. So even the understanding part and the processing part, you have to teach children how to process and how to understand things. So if you can explain your situation and relate to them, that makes a better pipeline of
Process.
understanding and processing and knowing, like, oh, I actually am connected to my Togo side, and this is how. And you're not gonna make fun of me, because I know I'm from Togo, and I know my name is important, and I know, like, just give those affirmations of letting kids know, like, it's good to be proud of where you're from. Like, it's a really good thing, because people are searching and yeah.
And maybe if they never went to Togo, it might really be hard for them at that point in time to really say, where are you from? I'm from Togo, because they cannot, the following question would be, what's it like in Togo? They cannot offer that first-hand experience of what Togo is like. It's just hearsay. What my parents say it is. Their reality is the environment they're in. So maybe a part of it is that it comes with time. But the parents, still, this is a society where children are inquisitive, children ask questions, and children are given questions. So it's also that the African parent, is also on the other extreme side of, you don't ask them questions, you don't ask them They don't offer explanations, and the American child is on the other extreme end of why, so you can ease the transition pain by offering some stories about Africa, offering some experiences, and allowing them to go through the process with you, and understanding that they may not completely understand, and when
Help
that
them
they
feel connected. You got to help them feel like
feel
they're actually connected to something versus it just being like, here's a story, like actually feel connected. Like now we have technology, we have WhatsApp, we have like video call, we have things like that like we need to really make children understand like this is where you're from and you should be proud of where you're from. Yeah.
Kekeli, there is the cost factor in going back to Africa. How treasurable do you find it for parents to make that sacrifice to still take the kids in spite of, and say this is a life sacrifice you're making for the child, to take them back to their place of origin, to help them get connected? Because from what I'm getting from you, eventually they'll be in search of who they are. They'll be looking for themselves. And if you've done the job of helping to give those things like their names, like telling them about who they are, having the language in the home where they are, having cultural experiences, it's almost like leaving breadcrumbs to help them find their way back home. But if you don't do it, you don't take them home, you don't do it because, yes, it's very expensive. They may get to that place where they're really lost and struggling to, why am I African? Why am I African American? What's this thing about me? It's understandable if you're African American and you, because of slavery, you just don't have, you have these obstacles in finding your way. But it's unfortunate if you have parents who could actually show you where you're from, and they really just use money as the excuse for why you don't know where you're from. Just help us, tell us just how critical it is for parents to help their children get that connection.
So I think it is just as important as it is for kids to go to school. I think it's just as important for kids to know who they are, see where they're from, know, especially if you're that far away from home. Like when we talk about slavery, for example, like these people were stripped from their home to not know how to go back. So many generations have came and gone that you don't even know where to start, to a point where like people don't even know how to re-explore that. So I think because we still have that direct connection, like it's so important, like to get those kids back on that homeland, like to really, and as kids, we don't understand. When I went as a kid, I didn't really understand, like, why am I here? First of all, why am I here? I didn't understand. And then that too, right? Like when you take your kids there, you have to have that dialogue. Like, yes, you were born in America, but this is really where you're from. This is really where your blood, like this is really where your bloodline originates from. So we need to like have those conversations too, because like when you get older and you wonder about why you do certain things, or why you're interested in this or that, like knowing where you're from plays a part in how easy or how difficult that is for you when you get to that place where you're just like, okay, so what now? And I went to Togo when I was 15, not again until I was 28. That was literally like my formative years, in the sense that like I was searching for who I was. I was searching for an identity. And I thought that because like I know my parents are from Togo, that I wouldn't have those same obstacles and challenges. But I still felt as though I didn't know where I was from, because I didn't have that real connection. Like when you think of somebody that's adopted, for example, like they know that they have parents, but they don't know really like what that connection is, why they do certain things, why, this, like they don't understand. So I think that it's something that like you need to do like at least once in every 5 years, like at least, because like the world changes. I'm sure that Togo was very different then than it is now. Like, even though, they say it's small advancements, like you need to go see those things because like our brains change every 7 years, I think. So I just think it's very important. It's very, very important for kids to, even if they don't understand, to like see what it is. And then once they get old enough to make their own decision, if they want to keep exploring it, they can. But I think it's important. I think it's something that we don't even know that we need. We take it for granted. So do it until they can make their own decision. And I'm sure that when they can make their own decision, they will still be invested in that.
Kekeli, thank you so much. Thank you so much. There are so many children out there who have the same experiences, the same challenges, and no one is talking about it. They are struggling, and to find the muster the courage to come talk about your experiences and the challenges and what it means to you to have parents who have left those breadcrumbs to make you find your way home. We are completely indebted to you for that. And even the parents are thankful that they're getting some insight into what their kids are going through. And, people aren't just so indifferent. Now we can see why we should embrace our brothers and sisters, whether they are African Americans, they are African, just embrace them. Thank you so much. And viewers, I pray that you learned something about our first, second, third generation African brothers and sisters today. If you love this content, be sure to click that subscribe button, like our videos, and share. Until next time, I am Manondo Akono saying thank you for responding to this summon.